Send. I was in that vibe yesterday talking to all these skaters. Mhm. Bum, bum,
Bump, bump,
bum,
ba-da-dum,
bum,
bump, bump.
bum. Boing.
Bring. Good morning, everybody. Maybe not the happiest of bindies, but we got the laser lights again, so that makes things a little bit better. Welcome
It's
to a
Friday.
Friday edition of the Blue Review. I am Marcus Grant. That is Parker Bell. How are we feeling this morning, Parker? Seems like you had quite the adventure last night.
All right, you know what? Oh, I'm not Jeff. Let's see. Where am I? Here I am. Haha. I did, Marcus. I To everybody who is out there watching, I'm on like empty right now. So on top of my already long list of ailments this week, we know I was dealing with some congestion and all that good stuff. I happened to work a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 event last night, and let's just say that, well, I'll be straightforward, the adolescents were playing, I had some punk going, Lupe Fiasco ended the night, so I'm also deaf now.
Yeah, you had a rough go of it. I know you've been dealing with like a cough and some congestion. Now you're having, hearing issues. You had like a fast food mishap recently. It's been a rough week for you, man.
Marcus, I almost got Dustin made. I I
Ah!
I apologize to our goat, Dustin, but I was putting down some Chipotle the other day, I think this was 2 nights ago, and something got lodged in my throat, and
Oh
it wasn't
no.
like I know, not to be too graphic, but it wasn't like an actual, like, lodge in the throat, like, something, like, poked
Oh no.
poked it, and I couldn't get it out for a while. I was kinda startled.
Yikes. Yikes. Well, glad you made it through that. Glad you're back here with us. Got some stuff to dive into. It was not a great night for the Dodgers, kind of a frustrating night. They lose the first of a 4-game series to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we'll touch on that a little bit, get you ready for the weekend as well. No Jeff Spiegel with us today because I believe he is actually in the desert. When I say that, I mean he's like going to the games, not that he's wandering out amongst the cacti out in the barren wasteland there in Arizona. But before we dive into any of that, I want to give a shout out to our friends at LAX. People at Los Angeles International Airport are transforming the travel experience, trying to save guests time. The People Mover train should be very exciting. I actually was on the Metro kind of in that area. Didn't go all the way up to quite to LAX, but I kind of can see where some of these things are coming together. So very, very exciting. Hopefully that is open at the start of next year. For more information, you can go to flylax.com/transforming LAX. So, all right, let's get into it. I know you were out partying with Tony Hawk and Lupe Fiasco, but I'm sure you saw the box score and maybe some highlights of it yesterday. The Dodgers, a 5-3 loser to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the first really poor start, I think, of the season for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Gives up had only given up 4 runs all season long coming into the start. Gave up 4 runs on one swing of the bat by giving up a grand slam in the 4th inning. He also gave up a solo home run in the 5th inning as well. That was all the D-backs would need. I would say from watching it, he wasn't on his A game yesterday. Just seemed to be struggling with his command. Didn't have the greatest stuff. I know, look, I know you didn't necessarily see a lot of it, but one bad start, that's not reason to panic on Yama just yet, right?
No, my first reaction, honestly, I was sitting there at this event. I may have been just getting done with the Tony Hawk interview, not to flex on everybody. Uh, and I saw the obvious grand slam, and I was just like, "Oh no!" And then I went, AI is getting crazy these days." You see, Yamamoto had been doing so well that he had actually brainwashed me to the fact that, like, oh, the Cy Young's a lock, everything's a done deal. But no, unfortunately, he dropped from first place in ERA to sixth. Oh
Oh,
boy,
wow.
a whopping 1.80 on the season. Um, I'm not worried in the slightest. I think that everybody is due for a bad night, and the D-backs just had an early jump on him, and that's what's going to happen sometimes in a 162 game season.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going to make a ton of starts. You're going to have some that aren't necessarily great. And really, it was kind of just one bad inning. The fourth inning, he gave up a walk. He gave up an infield single. I think maybe the most frustrating part of it was he hits a batter on an 0-2 count. And then that loads the bases. And then right after that, he ends up giving up the home run to Moreno. Um, so just everything sort of unraveled all at once for him. He gives up the 4 runs that inning. Then the following inning, he ends up giving up the home run to Marte. Uh, you know, it's not anything that I'm raising the alarm on. It's a good hitting Arizona team, and they took advantage of some mistakes. They took advantage of a guy who just was not completely sharp last night. But I think in the long run, Yama's going to be fine. I'll say this, Parker. I will take some of the blame for it because yesterday I did declare that hashtag Yoshi Day is a thing,
That's true.
and then he
That's
went out
true.
and had his worst start of the year. So, um, I will take some of the blame for that. So
I appreciate you manning up and owning
yeah,
it. I think maybe we were a little too early. Maybe we gotta
yeah.
wait till after the All-Star break till we can start saying hashtag Yoshi Day.
It's all about taking accountability for these sorts of things. Um, Offensively, it was kind of a frustrating night for the Dodgers too because they hit a lot of balls hard. They just didn't necessarily get a lot to show for it. I mean, um, Shohei ends up having the home run in the ninth, which was an absolute laser to right center field that made it 5-3 and gave them at least a little glimmer of hope. But I mean, he hit a couple balls hard that did not find grass. Muncy hit a couple hard. Outman hit one that off the bat looked like it was maybe going to get out. And I think Parker they tracked it and they said it would have been out in like 20 something parks, including Dodger Stadium. He just hit it to the wrong park.
Would it dong? I don't know if you remember that
Yes.
Twitter page.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think it got taken down because of
Mm-hmm.
AI. It's a bunch of AI talking this episode.
Boo.
But that was my favorite. That was my favorite page for a while. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this would be a home run everywhere except this one park.
Except this one place you hit it. Yeah. So that was kind of what happened with Outman, but he hit the ball hard as well. Just not a lot to show for it. I did see in the chat people, bringing up, and I guess we kind of have to mention it. Conforto, another tough night at the plate. He goes 0 for 3. Did hit a couple balls hard with nothing to show for it, but I think the biggest one was in the eighth inning, a chance to tack on. The Dodgers had already scored a couple of runs. They had a couple men on first and third with one out, and Conforto hits into an inning-ending double play. So I'll say this, Parker. I didn't actually see it live. I was doing some other stuff, and then I see the text from Greg that says, "I will not take the bait." And I went and I looked how the inning ended, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I see what that was."
Yeah.
Just continues to struggle. The bottom part of the lineup continues to struggle. I know that Parker, it's great to have these guys at the top who can hit, can drive in runs, but this team does eventually need some of these guys at the bottom of the lineup to start hitting a little better.
Yeah, and I mean, you kept mentioning where I'm gonna talk about Hessong for a little bit.
Yeah.
Early sample size, early sample size. It's true, but the 3Ks was a little rough to
Yeah.
see last night as well, and I think it really highlights this bottom part of the lineup, the last last four there.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who you put in there, it's just seemed to be struggling, and we saw like a couple games of Hessong where we were excited. But of course, a rookie, you cannot expect him to be fully consistent, at least on that end of
Yeah.
on the plate. So yeah, I'm a little worried here as we start to head further into the season, to start to head towards the All-Star breaks. Will we see changes? Because the Conforto, it's an everyday topic on this episode, and
Yeah.
I just don't know how much longer the Dodgers will be like, yeah, we're going to be okay. Because I saw in the chat earlier, I lost it already. The Dodgers, here it is. Roy Estrada saying about a point, actually, someone else in the chat made, BC, that the bullpen was like one of the major keys to winning the World Series last year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because they had a lineup that scored runs. It was a potent lineup, top to bottom. It wasn't that like that the whole season, though, I will admit.
Right.
But he said teams like D-backs and Cubs have a solid 1 through 9, and the Dodgers are a solid 1 through 6 right now. So, Marcus, I don't know your thoughts. Like, if they can upgrade, I don't know.
I mean, look, I think that the front office, I think Andrew Friedman's always going to be looking to upgrade. They always have their eye on other options to see what they can do. I've heard the name Nolan Arenado whispered about
Mhm.
a few times about what to do, maybe at third base if Max Muncy continues to struggle. Although I'll say this, in his defense, Muncy did have a couple of hits last night, did drive in a run. So hopefully, I mean, I know we keep saying this. Hopefully, he's starting to turn a corner a little bit. I think part of the problem right now is with Teoscar Hernandez out, you really are limited in what you can do. As much as the fans would like to see Conforto take a few days off, I think as much as Dave Roberts would probably like to see Conforto take a few days off, they just can't really do that right now. I mean, they've had to bring up James Outman to fill a spot in the outfield for the moment. Hopefully once Tommy Edman comes back, which fingers crossed is early next week, that will give them the opportunity to sit some guys down for a little bit. I think also, Parker, it's probably why we saw Ha-Seong Kim in center field the other day,
Yeah.
just to see if it's possible, right? Like, not as a long-term solution, but maybe it's in the short term. You can put him out in the outfield, and then you can give Conforto a day off. You don't have to worry about James Outman. I think right now Dave Roberts is just sort of mixing and matching. It helps that you have one of the best records in baseball, but I just think they've got to figure out an answer. And right now, just injuries and underperformance have kind of hamstrung them into trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I agree about the Edmund. Eventually, and Jasmine in the chat makes a good point. Eventually, we want it to be Teoscar, Edmund, Pajes as
Yes.
your main guys that you're going to see, and that is true. But it's just tough. It's tough because while they were the first team to reach 25 wins, the entire feels like. I mean, are we even gonna? We're not even going to mention the Rockies. Not a baseball team. The entire NL West essentially is at 20 wins now. I think after the Diamondbacks win,
Mm-hmm.
so it's tough. I mean, yeah, the Rockies are
Yeah.
6-31. I'm
Oof.
sorry that got a little laugh out of me this Friday morning. Yeah, the only division with 4 teams and 20 wins. So you
Yeah.
know, it can be dangerous because when teams are staying hot and they're sneaking up on you. I mean, I know we're saying the Dodgers are going to be over 100 wins, and that still may be true, but so might everybody else.
Yeah, that's the thing right now. Is like the Padres are on pace for 100 wins. The Giants actually have more wins than the Padres right now at 24 wins. So this division is really bunched at the top. I'm curious to see how long it stays this way. Whether or not I don't know. Some part of me thinks the Giants maybe fall off a little bit. But maybe not too much. I mean, here we are, what's more than a month into the season, and these teams are hanging around. So this could be sort of how it goes all year long. Yeah, I mean, I think once guys get healthy, I think things will be better. To the point, Jasmeet's point, Teo, Edmund, Pajes is an outfield I think this team can certainly live with. Um, unless Conforto turns it around, I just don't see him as a long-term fixture in the offense. Then all eyes kind of turn to Max Muncy over at third base to see, what he can do if he can turn things around. Because again, if we get into June or so and Muncy is still struggling at the plate, I think that the talk is going to get louder for trying to find somebody who can come up and play third base. Because as much as he's improving defensively, he's still kind of subpar, I think, defensively as a third baseman. So, there are holes to fill in this on this roster right now for sure.
Yeah, and I one of those, of course, is the injuries with starting pitching. But they get
Yeah.
we we talked about this episode. I think everybody's due for a bad day. Nobody's really worried about this Yamamoto situation. But where are you on Sasaki? What we're going to see tonight? Could he be like a kind of momentum shifter for this Dodgers team?
You'd hope so. I mean, I don't think he's been terrible. I know, we talked about him, anonymous ALGM saying that he's the biggest disappointment of the season so far, and that's not true. I mean, for the most part, I think he's been okay, right? And I think it's going to be a challenge for him tonight because he's got a good hitting lineup that he's got to deal with. But he went 5 innings and gave up 3 runs against the Braves. It's not terrible. 5 2/3. The Pirates not the best hitting team. The Rangers, though, the Rangers can generate some offense. 6 innings, 2 runs, on 2 hits against them. So he has shown that he can go out and pitch well against good lineups. And I think, that's what they're going to need from him again tonight. At the risk of repeating ourselves, it would be nice to get some length out of Sasaki tonight. They got through 5 with Yama. I think they were hoping they would get more, but circumstances were what they were. I guess the upside is they only used 2 guys yesterday.
Yeah.
Yamamoto and then Jack Dreyer. So they were still able to save the bullpen a little bit, but it would still be nice if Sasaki can get them through 6 innings. And again, they only have to use maybe 2 arms to get through the night. That'd be pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
I was going your thoughts on Sasaki. What have you seen from him so far?
Well, I think we're seeing a rookie pitcher really, really just finding his way in this league, and I think he's doing a better job than most rookies. I thought it was just absurd that anonymous AL GM was saying that, and I guess
exactly.
I guess that's the Dodgers' tax. But I was just gonna say I think it's important for this series specifically, just having not faced the D-backs, and I don't even think the D-backs have faced a divisional opponent yet somehow, which is insane. But Coach Roberts put out a quote saying, like, we seemed to bring out the best in them, and that's always the case with the Diamondbacks. So Roki's going to see the best in them, and I think that's what's important, is if he performs well against a team who's going to want to perform at their best because it's the Dodgers, then that's a huge, not just a momentum shifter like I mentioned earlier, but confidence booster for him specifically.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see sort of how he rises to the occasion of that. One of the things we learned about Yamamoto last year fairly early is that he rises to the occasion for big games. That start at Yankee Stadium during the regular season, the starts he had had that one bad start in the postseason. The rest of them were just nails. So now we kind of get to see that from Sasaki, what he does in situations where, all eyes are sort of on him and the team needs him to pick them up a little bit. So we will find that out tonight. Going against Eduardo Rodriguez, who this year numbers aren't great. 1-3 in 7 starts, a 5.92 ERA, has gone just 38 innings in his 7 starts. So that's just a little more than 5 innings per start. So he has not necessarily been hanging around for a lot of his starts in this one this season. 45 strikeouts in those 38 innings. Top of the order is still hitting, right? Freddie Freeman still on fire. Another hit last night. I would hope that it would be nice, Parker, to see this offense get out to a quick start and give Sasaki a little bit of breathing room early in this one.
Yeah, and I thought that they honestly, I think we talked about it a little earlier in the episode, and to Jeff's text, our friend Jeff Spiegel's text in our chat, they couldn't find the grass.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong. They really squared up the ball. I think Roberts was saying overall, the lineup did not speak, the line score didn't speak to the actual way they swung the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can get to this kid Rodriguez or this guy Rodriguez, I'm saying kid like I'm much older than all these guys, but if they can get to him early on, then that's a huge positive for the Dodgers, and hopefully the bottom half of the lineup can, follow suit just after seeing some of the guys take hits. Ohtani seems he's on an absolute laser fest right now.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll see. Hopefully we'll see a bomb again.
There it is. Yeah, I think again, I know they always say hitting is contagious, and you hope that it starts to catch to the bottom part of the lineup, because as much as when you watch the broadcast, Steven Nelson, Eric Karros, whoever's there, is trying to sort of make the best of it and trying to keep a positive spin on it. It's just hard when you look at a lot of these averages and you see Muncy below 200, Conforto below 150, Outman again below 150 right now. When they have Kike in there, he's under 200. Rojas not necessarily lighting it up offensively. It's hard to sort of ignore that, because that was, as you mentioned, and I was in the chat, part of what made this team special last year was that they started getting those contributions from the bottom of the lineup. I see Thomas suggesting Lars Nootbaar, USC legend Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah,
maybe bringing him back to Los Angeles.
And famous for bringing the, I don't know if we want to call it a great celebration, but bringing the salt shaker over to
that's right.
National team. I'm going to do it on camera. There it is.
There it is, the salt shaker. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, the pepper grinder, I guess we can call it.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if the Dodgers make a huge splash at the trade deadline this year, but I think they're going to make some moves at the deadline for sure. And maybe it doesn't have to be a big splash. I mean, Tommy Edman was not considered a game changer last year when they got him, but he ends up being the NLCS MVP. He ends up being a big part of what they did in the postseason, and when healthy, has been a big part of what they are doing this year. So I do think they make some moves at some point, whether it's bringing another bat, probably bringing in some more arms. Because that's another thing, Park. We have we talked a little bit about it, but this bullpen's still overworked. I would think they're gonna have to bring in some bullpen arms at some point this season.
yeah. Of course, we're expecting Kopech and
Yeah.
some big names to come back, but they lost Phillips, so it's like you lose one, you gain one, and you can't sustain that all season. So I would definitely expect for them to play in the margins, just as Friedman always does.
Yeah.
Go grab a guy who maybe even be a reclamation project. Not having the best year, but of course he comes over. I think when we got Kopech, his ERA actually wasn't all that good. I
It
probably
wasn't
can't find
great.
it before the
Yeah.
episode, but that's just something that the Dodgers do every year. And I just speaking on just the season in a whole, and as they're playing the Diamondbacks, you're seeing 40,000 fans chant "Beat LA."
Beat LA.
You're seeing Dave talk about, we're going to get the best out of them. I think that's what the Dodgers are going to see all year long, no matter
Mm-hmm.
who they play. And instead of being like an annoyance to Dodgers fans, I think that should be exciting because you're going to get playoff almost intent level intensity way more than any other team. And even if you're injured, even if you're dealing with bottom half of the lineups not hitting, you're getting that adversity, and that's how you end up performing in the playoffs like they did last year.
No, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely, it's a combination of being the defending champions, also mixed with everybody knows how much the Dodgers spent, right? They know how much they can
Yeah.
probably go up and down the lineup and tell you what each guy is making, on a yearly basis. And so the fact that, Andrew Friedman and the front office have built sort of a new Death Star. Yeah, everybody's wanting to take that down. So they have to be ready for everybody's best shot for the rest of the season for sure. So should be an interesting one tonight. It's going to be Roki Sasaki against Eduardo Rodriguez. Your prediction: do the Dodgers end up winning this series? Do they take the next 3 to win the series? They get a split. What's your prediction here?
I'm seeing a split here. We're gonna see how Sasaki performs today, but if they take the W, I think it's gonna be in the next 2. I think May has been doing phenomenal this season, and D-backs aren't gonna be able to catch up to his stuff. But it all lies on Sasaki. If they get the win, then they take the series.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see tonight what happens. They do have Dustin May going against Corbin Burns on Saturday, and then in the finale on Sunday, Tony Gonsolin against Zach Gallen. So we'll see if the Dodgers offense can kind of get going. Again, a lot of hard hit balls yesterday that just landed in gloves instead of landing on grass. As the kids say, touch grass. That's what we're asking the baseball to do. Go out and touch grass and see how things go. But a big weekend series. The Diamondbacks trying to make up ground in a very tightly bunched NL West. The Padres and Giants just a game back. Dodgers still, I was gonna say they're the only team at 25 wins, but that's not true because the Tigers beat up on the Rockies in a doubleheader yesterday. So the Tigers also have 25 wins.
Motor City, look at them boys going.
Yeah, man. I call them the Motor City Kitties, but that also applies to the Lions. So I don't know if they get to use
True.
both for the Lions and the Tigers. I have no idea.
Before we head out, Marcus,
Yeah.
just want to let everybody know to keep an eye out because that event I did yesterday was so cool. I'm going to have content out of me interviewing Tony Hawk. I have no idea who in the chat is big skating fans, but I had Bam Margera, the GOAT Rodney Mullen, the GOAT of street skating, a bunch of other guys. So look forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun because those video games were my childhood.
Absolutely. Yeah. So go check that out for sure. And while you're at it, stay here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel all day because we got plenty of content, plenty of stuff coming along. Travis and DeMarco coming up next. Thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out. Thanks to the folks at LAX. Thanks to Parker for playing hurt all week long, man. Hopefully you get a chance to rest and relax this weekend, recuperate. Can we get the laser? There we go.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Go do something nice for mom this weekend in between trying to take a peek at what's going on with the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. So for Parker Bell, I'm Marcus Grant. Thanks for hanging out with us. Back with you on Monday, 8:30 to 8:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel for the Blue Review. We'll see you then.
Bam.